An open all-out war between Israel and Iran has almost started. Iran launched 180 ballistic missiles at Israel on first day of October. But is this going to happen? Are we going to die from a fierce nuclear war? It is true that Israel has also said that it will retaliate against Iran's rockets, and Iran has also made it clear that if it takes action, it will launch more attacks. The US and G7 countries have acknowledged that Israel has the right to respond. US has said that it will support Israel's retaliation against Iran. American President Joe Biden clarified that Israel's response should be proportional. US would not support Israeli attack on Iran's nuclear sites. Iran has entered the war zone where Israel has been fighting proxies of Iran for a year. Israel has also taken a pledge to attack Iran. The story of Israel and Iran starts in 1948, when Israel declared its independence in the Middle East, because they considered it as promised land. Then Iran was a secular and pro-Western regime under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Because of common strategic and economic interest, Iran and Israel established informal relations. Although Iran never formally recognized Israel as a separate state, it was a strategic alliance, intelligence sharing and economic cooperation. Iran supplied oil to Israel. Both countries' militaries also cooperated. Joint drills and exercises were also conducted. It is difficult to think about it today, but that was the beginning. All this changes in 1979 when the pro-Western Shah Reza Pahlavi is removed and power is assumed by Shia cleric Ayatollah Khomeini, now a theocratic Islamic Republic of Iran instead of secular, liberal Iran. After the Iranian Revolution, Iran officially becomes a tough opponent of Israel. After becoming an Islamic Republic, Iran declared Israel an illegitimate Zionist regime. Zionism is a political and nationalistic movement which started in the 19th century. Its main aim was to establish an independent homeland for Jews, which eventually was completed in 1948 with the creation of Israel. Zionism's focus was to make Jews a separate nation where they could practice their cultural, religious, and political identity freely, especially considering the fact, and it is true, that Jews had to face a lot of persecution in Europe and the rest of the world. The Zionist movement gained strength following the crimes committed by Hitler and the Nazis. Israel was established with assistance from the UN and Western nations. However, Iran's position has consistently been that Israel's existence is against the Middle East, particularly against the Palestinians, according to Shia clerics. In light of all of this, Iran's top leadership has also demanded the destruction of Israel. This division, disagreement, and conflict are the main causes of the potential Third World War. Now, it's important to realize that throughout the Middle East, the idea that Israelis are occupants has always existed. They have taken over Palestinian territory. People in the Middle East also think that a Jewish state has been purposefully established by Western powers in a region that has historically and primarily been Islamic. For this reason, following the overthrow of radical Islamic clerics in Tehran, Iran's stance on Israel and Palestine grew even more radical. Indeed, under this new regime, which was strongly anti-Israel and anti-US, they began to view Israel as a little devil and the US as a giant. To subdue this little devil and grant the Palestinians their rights in order to obtain their nation, the Iranian government began constructing, arming, and financing militias in Israel's neighboring regions. Groups that continue to fight Israel, such as Hamas and Hezbollah, are born during this period. These organizations were established in accordance with Iran's forward defense doctrine. According to this theory, you can use your influence outside of your country. Iran's nuclear program began to take shape in the 1990s. The US wouldn't consider attacking and changing the government if there were nuclear weapons. However, Israel saw Iran's nuclear aspirations as a threat to its very existence. Israel will be destroyed if Iran develops nuclear weapons. A risky proxy war starts as a result. In the 1960s, Israel, which was surrounded by enemies, had unofficially gained nuclear power status thanks to America. However, they did not want the nuclear weapon to have an impact on any other Middle Eastern nation. Israel's begin doctrine was applied for this reason. No nation that opposes Israel will be permitted to produce nuclear weapons or any other type of WMD. Israel can destroy any nation's weapons because of its politics, policies, and doctrine, which may pose a future threat to Israel. Under this doctrine, Israel had launched military attacks on Iraq's nuclear reactor. Saddam Hussein was allegedly producing nuclear weapons there. According to Israel, nuclear energy would never be used peacefully. When Iran's nuclear ambitions grew, Israel used the same strategy against it. But this time, fighter planes were not used. Iran's top nuclear scientists died mysteriously, or were they assassinated? The Mossad intelligence agencies of Israel are said to be involved. Mohsen Fakhrizadeh's case was the most well-known and dramatic of these. Who was the leading nuclear scientist in Iran, as stated in a New York Times report? Israel killed him with a remote-controlled machine gun and an AI robot. Israel was therefore operating at that level. Together, Israel and the CIA created the Stuxnet computer worm in 2010. By introducing this worm, the computers were destroyed. This worm was used to cause the centrifuge to malfunction. As a result, Iran's nuclear and enrichment programs were delayed for years. Activities were taking place at such a high level. In reality, Israeli intelligence has penetrated every Iranian institution. The head of Iran's anti-Mossad intelligence unit was revealed to be a Mossad agent, as the former Iranian president acknowledged. This is the state of Iran's nuclear and security apparatus. Iran is attempting to provide Israel with a firm response in spite of this. The last 20 years have seen the success of Iran's proxies, Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah in Yemen. For decades, Palestinians have been subjected to oppression. Additionally, they reside in Gaza's open prison. This desperation and exploitation are exploited by Hamas. Additionally, Hamas orchestrated an event that ignited the Middle East a year ago. On the 7th of October, 2023, attack in Israel by Hamas. More than 1,200 people are killed and more than 250 are taken prisoners. It is considered one of the worst terror attacks in recent history. The next day, Lebanon's Hezbollah also started bombing Israel. In a few days, Yemen's Houthi rebels also started pressuring Israel. They started attacking ships passing on the Red Sea. The attacks from all sides do not have a big impact on Israel. Their defenses are strong. They start their operations in Gaza and Lebanon. To deal with Iran proxies, Israel has started cross-border operations in Syria and Lebanon. The Hezbollah commanders and military officers of Iran were targeted. They were coordinating attacks on Israel from Syria and southern Lebanon. The war with Hamas was just a step towards the war we are seeing today. Tensions between Iran and Israel have been going on for a long time. Israel has been conducting cross-border operations. However, these cross-border operations significantly increased in April, because the Iranian consulate in Damascus was the operation's target. For two reasons, it can be regarded as an outright attack on Iran. First, a diplomatic mission or embassy is regarded as a part of that nation. An airstrike against the Iranian consulate in Syria qualifies as an attack on Iranian territory. Second, two senior generals and 7 other officers of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps were slain. These officials were commanders from Iran. It is clear that Iran also discussed direct attack and retaliation. Iran launched over 300 projectiles, including drones and missiles, at Israel on April 1st. Saudi Arabia, Jordan, France, and the United Kingdom all assisted Israel in fending off the attack. The majority of projectiles were stopped. However, Israel struck back. The target was a little quadcopter drone. Israel and Iran, however, never formally recognized this attack as a retaliatory strike. The issue was not addressed further, it was repressed. However, this attack did send Iran a more profound message. In Isfahan, Iran also launches its covert nuclear program. Israel launched a small-scale attack here and informed Iran that they were aware of their critical areas. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi passes away in an aircraft accident the following month, although there are certain issues and conspiracy theories. Israel has not yet been officially implicated in any of them. Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas, was slain in Iran. This was no coincidence. Iran has formally attributed this to Israel. Israel's involvement in Hani's death was never denied. Iran had also discussed taking revenge for Hani's passing. However, back-channel discussions took place once more. After US intervention, the issue was once more buried. Despite crossing the red line, nothing was done. However, how often will you do the same thing? There will soon be a number of significant escalations. Iran claims that the red line has been repeatedly violated. In Lebanon, pager and walkie-talkie attacks were carried out. Hezbollah chief Nasrallah and Iranian commander were assassinated in Beirut. In Lebanon, IDF has started on-ground invasion. Iran finally unleashed its largest missile barrage on Israel on October 1st. These attacks were directed at Israeli military installations. Israel was unable to totally stop them with its aerial defense. However, it did not seriously harm Israel. But a significant terror incident occurred in the southern part of Tel Aviv just minutes before the missiles were dropping from the sky. A train station and its environs were targeted by Hamas using its two terrorist weapons, and in this terrible event, 7 Israelis lost their lives. This only makes it apparent that you will have advanced technology, iron domes, missiles, and air defense. However, how are you going to prevent these acts of terror? Even after the war, these will still occur. There is now general agreement in Israeli military and political circles that Iran's missile attacks require a tough response. Iran is currently in a poor economic state as a result of the crippling sanctions that the US and the international community have already placed on it. An attack on its oil facilities would have a detrimental effect on the economies of the entire world, not just Iran. Iran has threatened to stop all oil from leaving the Middle East if its oil facilities are targeted. However, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel has already begun speaking to Iranians. He has begun to make indications that he wishes to topple Iran's government. He claimed that the Iranian government would have to pay for its grave error. However, Israel is fighting Iran, not a terrorist organization acting as a proxy. There appears to be a conflict between Israel and Iran's military prowess. Iran has over 5 lakh active duty personnel compared to Israel's approximately 1,700. Israel has a very powerful reserve force, but Iran has manpower. It is possible to include about 4.5 lakh people in this. Thus, the overall military power is significant. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, is the ground force. Hezbollah and other militias are powerful in proxy wars. Furthermore, Israel has superior air power. Israel possesses over 600 aircraft, including the cutting-edge American F-35 stealth fighters. Iran's air force is severely diminished as a result of sanctions. It is estimated that between 300 and 500 aircraft may be present. However, they are out-of-date Chinese and Russian models, like the newest, most sophisticated aircraft systems. Israel's air defenses are superior to theirs. Iran looks to be very strong when it comes to missile capabilities. Over 3,000 ballistic and cruise missiles, including long-range ballistic missiles, are in Iran's arsenal. Any region of the Middle East could be their target. Although Israel also possesses ballistic missiles, their missile defense systems, such as Arrow 3, David's Sling, and Iron Dome, are highly efficient. They are able to defend themselves in the event of an attack. So, are we witnessing the scene from World War III when there is a fight and a lengthy history? Anywhere, news outlets begin World War III. Previously, it was Russia and Ukraine. In actuality, however, if the World War could have been initiated, it would have been that year. Everyone is attempting to preserve their dignity because nobody wants World War III. Let me tell you how. Iran is aware that the situation will escalate if it murders more Israeli civilians. America will intervene if there is an escalation, and things will get worse. Israel desires American troops, American tax dollars, and a conflict similar to those in Iraq and Afghanistan. Iran's issue is that their credibility and position as a regional power will suffer if they become afraid of the United States. Iran is attempting to assert itself because of this, launch missiles repeatedly. Nothing occurs. but the missiles are being launched. Israel's options are limited. Sign off from social media, you destroyed. The leadership of Hezbollah, the pages exploded because of you. The tactical advantage is yours. The headlines were yours. Even though the wind is on your side, you can't use this to win wars. See what transpired a year later. You couldn't totally defeat a force like Hamas. You couldn't get your hostages back. In addition to the ground invasion, Israeli troops have begun to be killed in Lebanon. The United States is telling Israel that you have accomplished a lot because of this. Now back off. Netanyahu, however, thinks this is the ideal moment. Take Iran to a nuclear-free state by attacking its nuclear sites. However, Israel and the United States are aware that they can initiate a war against Iran but cannot stop it. America became aware of this in Israel, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Iraq. An invasion from the ground will fail. It will only result in a deadlock. Furthermore, changing the Iranian regime won't be as simple as Netanyahu claims on television. When there is an external invasion, people will not criticize their own government. Additionally, alternatives could become even more fundamentalist if the regime changes. Israel should live in peace, and Palestine should be granted its own state and rights. Israel, however, disagrees with this. For many years, we have had positive relations with Iran. These all demonstrate the complexity of the Middle East and the interdependence of global peace and stability. Many academics are considering the issue of war. However, winter is returning to Gaza, children are still living in tents, and people are still displaced. There is no clean water, no coat, no socks, and no nutritious food. I promise that children will once more perish from hypothermia. Large nations will also continue to launch hypersonic missiles at one another, unless everyone believes that the only viable option is a two-state solution. More people will die in the Middle East until then.